Hello subscribers and non-subscribers, and welcome to the, not really first episode of anything serious. I saw that there was a mod called The Great War for Napoleon Total War, and I decided, you know what, I want to go ahead and play it. This mod is a mod that brings Napoleon Total War into essentially the World War I era. And I was just in the mood to play it, and I never actually ended up playing Napoleon Total War. So I was like, you know what? Sure, let's go ahead and play it. But either way, in this case, well, I think the match, one word of advice, I will advise that to a degree you guys may want to lower the volume on your end. I will attempt to lower it on my end post. But the artillery in this game is really freaking loud. So that's one reason why I'm going to advise that you guys may want to go ahead and lower the volume on your end, because, like I said, artillery is very, very loud. And if I had one issue I would say with this mod, and I don't know if it's really an issue necessarily with the mod, but just sort of with the base game probably, and it's something that the mod can't really do anything about, I would say that would have to be the fact that placing units in the trenches is, to be honest, a royal pain in the ass. I'm not joking when I say that. You can see that I kind of struggle to place them in there, and eventually just kind of give up on trying to place all my units in the trenches, and end up placing the bulk of, or maybe not the bulk of them, but a decent amount of them outside behind some sort of very basic barricades, essentially. I also noticed that when it comes to machine guns, they sort of point backwards for some inexplicable reason. Yes, you essentially want to point them when, like, sort of their movement, you want to point it in the opposite direction of where you want them to fire. Apparently, because that's just how it works. It's kind of odd. Also, I will tell you guys, if you decide you wish to go and download this mod yourself so you can play it yourself, you will not want to update the mod to 5.2. The reason being, if you update it to 5.2, you will end up needing to deal with just the mod crashing on pretty much everything. I'm not joking when I say that. It literally crashes like every single chance it gets. So that's one reason why I will advise, if you do decide to download this mod, do not update to 5.2. You will want to update as high as 5.1.4, and that is the highest you will want to go, because that is, at least from what I can tell, the most stable version of the mod. Going up to 5.2, because there is no 5.1.5, it goes straight from 5.1.4 up to 5.2, but like I said, 5.2, from what I can find, is very, very unstable. So that is one reason why, again, I advise against you updating to 5.2 if you do decide to download this mod. I will also advise that you will, again, want to turn down your volume. Just even when you're playing this mod, you will want to decrease your volume, simply because of just how freaking loud it is. Again, just because of the artillery. The artillery is ridiculously loud in this game. Or in this mod, at least. I don't think the base game has it this bad. But yeah, so that's kind of the way that ends up working out. I might, maybe, if I end up being in the mood and I don't have any serious issues while playing this through for myself, I might end up doing an actual Let's Play of this. If I do end up doing one, hopefully I don't end up having any issues, such as the ones that I eventually ended up encountering with the American Civil War mod. But I will say this. This mod is, to a degree, better than the version of the American Civil War mod that I was playing with for my series. The reason why I say that is actually mostly because, at least in this mod, I don't always have to go to the AI. The AI will at least come to me. And I will say this, machine guns are really freaking overpowered in this mod. They're able to fire while hidden, but I think their only limitation is that they are not capable of moving from their location. But I could be wrong about that. I have tried moving them at a later point in this match, but it didn't really seem to work out. So I think machine guns in this mod might be limited and prevented from being able to move from wherever you end up setting them up. So you kind of got to make sure that where you put them is where you want them to be for the entire match, because they won't be moving from that spot anytime soon. Tanks themselves are also actually pretty decent, although there is an issue with tanks, and that is that, and it's not, I wouldn't really describe it as an issue in sort of something that could be fixed. It's just kind of a limitation of how the tanks are represented. The tanks are represented as an artillery piece, and because of that, you can theoretically blow up the artillery piece, as you can see here. That's a tank right there, but you don't actually see the units because they're supposed to be inside the tank, and you're theoretically not supposed to be able to see them. But because of the fact that you can't actually see them, you end up in a situation where they're essentially, you have invisible people charging across the battlefield towards you, simply because their artillery piece, which is the tank itself, got blown up. And again, that's not really something that the mod can really fix, I think. It's just an issue with the way that the mod has to represent tanks. So that's just kind of the way that ends up working out. So you can kill essentially the individual people crewing the tank, but you can also kill the tank itself, thus making it to where you essentially have a unit, an artillery unit essentially, that is invisible, charging towards your enemy. Or at least you don't like visually see the units that were inside the tank, because again, that's just the way they are set up. You're not supposed to be able to see them. And that to a degree does sort of help save on processing, because then you don't have to render them. But because of that, you end up in that situation where you have invisible people charging towards you, which doesn't really work out. I will say, from what I can find, infantry in this game has a ridiculous amount of ammo for the most part. It's very, well, maybe not very rare. In this battle, essentially none of my units, like I think only like 2 units total, end up ever running out of ammunition. That is these Panzerjägers, I think they are called. So essentially tank hunters. That's essentially what they are. They hunt armored vehicles, hence the name Panzerjäger. And I think one of my Sturmtruppen, the ones with SMGs, runs out of ammo. But for the most part, very few people run out of ammo. And that's, I don't really know what to say about it. It's kind of interesting how these guys carry so much ammo that for the most part they don't run out of ammo. So yeah, that's just kind of the way it works out. But I do find that the AI is actually somewhat decent when in the campaign. It's not wonderful, but it's not complete and utter garbage to where you essentially raffle stomp them. Because I do have a situation where I am struggling to take Belgium, simply because there's a decent-sized French army there, and Belgium is defended with almost a full army. And so what ends up happening is when I go to Belgium and I siege it, there's that French army outside that serves as reinforcements to the Belgian troops inside Belgium, or Brussels, I think is actually listed as the capital in this case. I'm not sure if Brussels was actually the capital of Belgium, however, during this time period. I'm not 100% sure on that. But either way, I just end up in that situation where I've got these French troops that once they deal with the Belgian troops, these French troops come in fresh. They have no damage done to them. They have all the ammo they need. They're completely fresh troops, but my troops have just, maybe not necessarily taken a pounding, but they've just expended massive amounts of ammo to deal with Belgian troops that were charging towards them. And now they've got to turn around and deal with these French troops that are completely fresh and have no issues in regards to ammo, or essentially whether or not they are fresh, winded, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of a pain for me to go and actually take over Belgium, because it takes ages, well, not necessarily ages, but it takes a decent amount of time to build up an army large enough for me to assault Belgium. But while trying to build up that army, I've got to deal with Belgian troops that are charging towards essentially where the army is currently stationed, or where that army that's being built is currently stationed, and thus that city gets besieged, and because it gets besieged, you're not able to recruit troops there. Luckily me, I'm still recruiting troops elsewhere, but nonetheless, I then have to still break that siege. And so it makes it a pain for me to actually build up that army. So the AI is decent, it's not wonderful. The Russians are kind of being a bit of a pain in the arse. On the Eastern Front, they are currently besieging, West Prussia? I believe it is. I think the Russians are given control of East Prussia at the start of the campaign. And I'm playing as Germany, so I've got to deal with defending West Prussia, but I've also got to go in to build up an army. West Prussia doesn't really have any infrastructure there to build up a decent-sized army. I can get conscript troops, which are pretty much garbage. And it takes 2 turns to recruit them. But if I want to get actual infantry units that are decent, I've got to go, essentially if I wanted actual line infantry rather than colonial militia or whatever, I've got to go ahead and build up the barracks, which takes 2 turns in and of itself, and then it takes 3 turns to recruit actual infantry. And I've also got to get artillery there. And it should be noted, those French troops that I have to deal with in Belgium have 3 artillery units. For me, I usually only go with 2 artillery units, because for me, I see no reason for anything more than 2 most of the time. But that's causing an issue, because the enemy is now able to throw down more artillery my range, or down towards me, than I can throw at them. But I've got the issue of, it takes 5 turns to recruit artillery. So it takes a while to build up any army that, at least to me, is suitable for going on the offense. So it's kind of been a pain for me. I'm sort of stuck perpetually fighting a defensive war against both the Russians and the French. The Belgians haven't really gone too much on the offensive. And Austria-Hungary, I don't even think has bothered attempting to invade Serbia. So Austria-Hungary's not really doing anything for me. The Ottomans, I don't think, have gone on the offensive at all towards Russia, and rather they just have an army essentially sitting in Istanbul doing nothing. While the Russians constantly blockade one of the Ottoman ports, and so, or the Russian just have a navy down the Black Sea that goes into a port in the that connects to the Black Sea. So an Ottoman port, they go ahead, they sort of dock themselves there. The Ottomans then take their massive army that's in Istanbul to kick that Russian fleet out of that port, but then the Ottoman army leaves that port and heads back to Istanbul, and so the Russians go ahead and put their troops back inside the port and rinse and repeat. And so the Ottomans aren't really doing anything for me. I don't really want to involve Spain or Italy until I feel as though I'm in a good position, because I don't know what the hell Spain and Italy are going to do to defend themselves. Spain probably may not even have an army strong enough to defend itself against the French. And Italy may not be able, or maybe even not willing, to go out on the offensive against the French. And so it would be kind of a worthless alliance. And so I'm sort of in a predicament where it's like, how do I deal with this? Because I can't really go ahead and charge the Belgians because I don't have enough troops. It takes too long for me to build up the army I need to be able to fight the Belgians. But then I've also got the Russians closing in on me on the east, and I need to be able to go and get my troops up there to be able to deal with the Russians. So it's kind of a pain, but it's still good, and I guess better than some other mods, and even the base game of Empire Total War was kind of meh for that game. I haven't played base Napoleon Total War, so I don't know how that is, but again, I do know that base Empire Total War, I never really had issues with the AI. The AI always seemed kind of incompetent to me. And I usually played on normal. But I never could bring myself to go and play on one of the higher difficulties because I just wasn't sure how high up or like how much of a gap there would end up being there between the AI on normal and the AI on one of the harder difficulties. And in this case, in this mod, I'm just playing with normal level AI. And it's actually proving to be a bit of a pain to deal with. Although, personally, I think it's a bit of a pain not so much because the AI is good, but just because it takes me so long to recruit the troops I need to be able to build an actual army to be able to go out on the offensive to kick the French out of the war so I can go ahead and take troops and attempt to launch an invasion of England so that I can kick England out of the war and then turn around and beat the crap out of Russia. So yeah, it's one of those that's kind of a pain to do. But I do still feel as though at the end of the day it is probably one of the better mods, and probably even one of the better experiences I've had playing a Total War game. Because, again, my experience in Total War, the AI has a lot of the times been sort of more on the incompetent side of my experience. So it's not really put up that much of a fight in the even early portions of the game. And it doesn't even really try to put up a fight, it seems like, in the late game. But I'm going to go and actually cut off my commentary here. This is only got about, I think, what is that, 8 more minutes or so? Like I said, though, I might, if I'm in the mood to, and if I don't have any serious issues in sort of as time goes on while I play this mod for myself, I might end up doing an actual playthrough at some point in the future. But that just depends. Especially on whether or not you guys would actually be interested in it, which, if I do think that I am going to end up doing one, which if I do, it'll probably be like after I finish Tom Clancy's End War, which Tom Clancy's End War won't be finishing for like probably another 2 months or so, give or take. So yeah, essentially when I finish finish Tom Clancy's End War, I will go ahead and probably make another video for this, posing the question to you guys whether or not you'd be interested in it. And of course, if you guys do decide you are interested in seeing an actual playthrough of this mod, then I will end up doing so. But first, I still need to finish up Tom Clancy's End War. Until then, there is still essentially what is a 50-50 shot of this mod getting an actual Let's Play. But either way, that's going to be it for now. So, as always, like, favorite, comment, subscribe, share, and I will see you guys next time. But until then, goodbye and farewell.
Mettez-vous à couvert, imbécile!
Artillerie!
All its ammunition, sir.